Today, we're not just flipping through a book, we are dissecting a full-blown psychological thriller. We're going to examine the script, the cast, the props, and the ultimate director's cut of a story that, honestly, forces us to take a really hard look in the mirror.
So let's dive right into this terrifying question that serves as the ultimate cold open for our story. Just imagine you're stranded. No parents, no police, no judges, literally zero rules. I mean, it sounds like the ultimate childhood fantasy, right? But Golding takes that fantasy and completely flips it into a total nightmare. What actually happens when the guardrails of society are just stripped away? Do we inherently cooperate, or do we just descend into our absolute most primal instincts?
And then you have this haunting image of a pig's head on a spear. It directly represents the darkness that Golding believed lurked inside every single human being. It's the title character, the Lord of the Flies, which is actually a literal translation of Beelzebub, another name for Satan. So this isn't just some creepy physical prop, it is the beating, dark heart of the entire narrative. But before we get to this gruesome mascot, we kind of need to understand the world that built it.
Part 1. A World at War, the prequel to The Island.
To really grasp our feature presentation, we first have to set the stage with the horrific, real-world prequel that inspired the whole thing. You see, the author didn't just invent this darkness out of thin air. He lived it. This brilliantly illustrates the macro-level savagery of the adult world. When Golding published this back in 1954, the world was still reeling from World War II, a conflict that claimed a staggering 60 million lives. And Golding himself was in the Royal Navy. He saw active duty, he helped sink the Bismarck, and he literally commanded a rocket-launching ship at Normandy. He was appalled, not just by the Nazis, but by the Allies' ability to justify sheer destruction in the name of morality. Add to that the immediate onset of the Cold War, where everyone was living under this constant, terrifying threat of nuclear annihilation and totalitarianism, and you start to realize the boys on the island aren't just an anomaly. They're a microcosm. The adults are out there fighting a global, savage war. The kids are really just running a smaller simulation of it.
Section 2. Castaways on Eden, the Dramatis Personae. As our plane crashes on this deserted, Eden-like island, it is time to meet our incredibly memorable cast of characters. In any great cinematic explainer, you've got to know exactly who the players are and what they stand for. Notice how incredibly fast the initial bonds of friendship totally fracture into opposing, deadly camps here. At first, they're just British schoolboys trying to survive. But pay close attention to how this web of relationships breaks down. The arrows of friendship quickly get replaced by arrows of fierce opposition, and eventually, arrows of murder.
Okay, I want you to lock these mnemonic monikers into your memory right now, because every single boy represents a core human drive that is going to battle for supremacy. First, we have Ralph, the ruler. He's our elected protagonist, desperately trying to hold on to order and civilization. Then there's Jack, the dictator. He's this authoritarian choir leader who just falls headfirst into total savagery. Piggy is the intellect, the asthmatic, nearsighted voice of reason who constantly gets mocked just for being different. Simon is the spirit, representing pure, selfless goodness and deep spiritual insight. And finally, Roger, the executioner. He's the sadistic boy who progressively loses every single moral constraint. Keep these exact labels in mind, guys. They are the absolute key to understanding this entire plot.
So the crucial point to take away here is that this island literally could have been a paradise. But the physical scar left by the plane crash heavily foreshadows the deep psychological wounds that are about to come. Right off the bat, human destruction leaves this festering mark on nature. The boys find a conch shell, and Piggy, our intellect, knows exactly how to use it to call a meeting. It instantly becomes a symbol of democracy. Whoever holds the conch gets the floor to speak. And for a brief, shining moment, it actually looks like they're going to establish a functioning, civilized society. But remember, we're analyzing a thriller here, definitely not a fairy tale.
Section 3. The Descent into Savagery, the feature presentation.
Let's move to our main feature, where the initial excitement of all this newfound freedom quickly rots into a completely terrifying struggle for survival. The honeymoon phase? Yeah, that is officially over. Think of this as our cinematic pacing chart. We're watching the boys' fragile society climb the steep mountain of rising action, right before a devastating freefall. Every single plot point is a step further away from the civilized world they left behind, dragging them toward an absolute nightmare.
This timeline perfectly compresses our narrative tension, and it shows you exactly how fast a civilized democracy can devolve into primal fear. Day 1 and 2, we actually have rules. We have Ralph firmly in place as chief, But jump ahead just a few weeks. The crucial signal fire, literally their only hope for rescue, goes out completely because Jack's choir boys were too busy hunting. A ship passes them right by. And on that exact same day, Jack kills his first pig, fully plunging into bloodlust. Then we hit the ultimate turning point, the discovery of what they genuinely think is the beast. From that moment, fear completely takes over the entire island.
Here we see the stark, unavoidable contrast in ideologies. It is a desperate cling to the future versus a savage surrender to the present moment. Rolf, the ruler, is just exhausted. He's trying to build huts, he's begging everyone to keep the fire going, he is hyper-focused on rescue. Jack, the dictator, he couldn't care less about the fire. He discovers camouflage face paint, and this paint is a literal mask that liberates him from shame and self-consciousness. He totally weaponizes the boys' fear of the beast to offer them protection, effectively staging a military coup and forming his own savage tribe.
Section 4. Symbols of the Fall. Decoding the cinematic props.
In any great movie, the props carry massive weight. And in Golding's allegorical thriller, every single item is loaded with meaning. Let's look at the items that actually chart this downfall. Because if you track the destruction of these specific props, you are literally tracking the death of civilization on the island. Piggy's glasses, which are used to start the fire, represent scientific reason and clear insight. When Jack smacks Piggy and shatters a lens, reason itself is fractured. The conch shell represents democratic order and societal rules. The war paint acts as a psychological mask, completely liberating the boys from guilt so they can commit atrocities. And the fire? It is a massive paradox. Controlled, it's their salvation and rescue. Uncontrolled, it's pure destructive chaos, like early on when they accidentally kill a little boy in a forest fire that carelessly started.
Section 5. The Beast Within, the Climax and Director's Cut.
We have finally reached the harrowing emotional core of our explainer, where the true monster is unmasked. And spoiler alert, it doesn't have claws or fangs. This is a brilliant twist of dramatic irony, as the boys cower in fear from a literal casualty of the adult civilization they're trying so desperately to return to. One night, an actual air battle happens in the skies above the island. A dead fighter pilot parachutes down, and his lifeless body is just flapping in the wind on top of the mountain. The twins, Sam and Eric, see it in the dark and run screaming that they've seen the beast. But we, the audience, know it's just a dead soldier. The adults they look up to are murdering each other right over their heads.
Then we get Simon's hallucinatory encounter with the Lord of the Flies, which delivers Golding's ultimate terrifying thesis directly to us. Simon, the spirit, wanders deep into the jungle and finds the rotting pig's head that Jack left as a sacrifice to the beast. He literally imagines it talking to him, and it tells him the hardest truth of all. You can't hunt or kill the beast, because the beast is inside the boys themselves. It is the inherent human capacity for evil.
Notice how rapidly the falling action accelerates right here. We are leaving no information behind. As the executioner takes over and innocent blood is spilled, it's practically a free fall. Simon runs down the mountain to tell everyone the truth about the parachutist, but the boys are caught in this violent chanting frenzy during a massive thunderstorm. They mistake Simon for the beast and literally tear him apart with their bare hands. 2 days later, during a tense confrontation at Castle Rock, Roger, the executioner, deliberately drops a massive boulder. It strikes Piggy, killing him instantly and completely shatters the conch shell. Intellect and democracy are officially dead. The very next day, Jack's tribe hunts Ralph like an animal, setting the entire island on fire just to smoke him out. Ralph eventually collapses on the beach, expecting to die, only to look up and see a British naval officer standing there, halting the apocalypse.
Looking closely at the director's cut of this narrative, we see that without the strict guardrails of society, the descent into darkness is a universally human trait. It's really not about a few bad apples, it's about the tree itself. Golding fundamentally believed that if you strip away the rules, the uniforms, the punishments of a civilized society, we revert to our most savage, self-serving, and violent nature. The tragic loss of innocence here isn't just about growing up, it's about the horrific realization of what you, yourself, are truly capable of.
And honestly, it is profoundly disturbing to remember that the oldest protagonist committing these atrocities is merely 12 years old. Literally 12. These aren't hardened criminals we're talking about, these are British choir boys and school kids. By making them so young, Golding completely strips away the comforting excuse of being corrupted by adult society. It is a direct indictment of our fundamental human nature.
Even in the very moment of their rescue by this military officer, there is absolutely no joy. There's only the devastating realization of the permanent scars they now carry. The officer actually scolds them for not putting up a better show as British boys, completely oblivious to the glaring irony that his own warship is sitting out there hunting human beings just as savagely as Jack hunted Ralph. Ralph looks at the officer, looks back at the burning island, and just breaks down in tears. He's safe physically, sure, but he will never, ever be the same.
I'm going to leave you with that incredibly provocative thought to ponder, really challenging everything we just assume about the fragile nature of our own society. We love to think that civilization is this sturdy, unshakable fortress, but Golding's cinematic masterpiece is a massive warning sign that it's actually just a thin coat of paint over a very, very wild heart. The beast isn't out there hiding in the jungle somewhere, it's sitting right here with us. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Keep questioning the script, keep decoding the world